Let me ask you something strange. What would you say if I told you that psychic children are being abducted by secret military programs, not by aliens, but by humans, to be trained as interdimensional operatives? That they're taught to interface with extraterrestrial species, navigate consciousness-based spacecraft, and psychically detect alien portals? You'd probably say, that's insane, and you would be right, it is insane. But the world we live in, if the testimonies are to be believed, is far stranger than what we've been led to believe. So let me preface this by saying that I have no direct experience with any of the information put forth in this video. I wasn't in a secret government underground base, I didn't commune with aliens, and I don't know anyone in black budget projects. But what I do is look at the information, piece it together in a way that makes sense, and I present it to you in video format. You need to be your own judge on this. And with that said, let's move on to part 2 of our journey into the alleged secret space program. Today we'll descend into one of its darkest corridors, MILABs, psychic operatives, and human-alien contact. MILAB stands for military abduction. But unlike the little green tropes of pop culture, these programs are run by human factions, allegedly. Military industrial complexes, black budget groups, and intelligence networks like the CIA, NSA, there's a ton of them, FBI, blah, blah, blah. And their targets are children. Yes, little innocent children, specifically children with rare genetic markers, highly intuitive intelligence, or what some would call activated latent DNA. Authors like Dr. Helmut Lammer and Dr. Carla Turner explored this phenomenon decades ago, and they wrote books like MILABs, Military Mind Control and Alien Abduction, and they document chillingly consistent testimonies that these children were taken from their homes, they were tested for their psychic potential, and they were eventually subjected to some very, let's just say, some very rough training. And these aren't isolated cases. They span through the continents, different cultures, different decades, and yet the hallmarks of all of them are eerily similar. You have white rooms, intense light, strange uniforms, mind scans, injections, but most disturbing of all is what comes after. And we're talking about psychic boot camps. Not in a good way. Once selected, these individuals are put through an intense and often traumatic indoctrination process. We're talking about virtual reality combat simulations, emotional torture conditioning, and telepathic testing. And what is the end goal of all this? Well, it's a human who can operate in interdimensional warfare, mentally pilot craft, and even communicate with alien intelligences through thought alone. I know, it all rings like a Marvel origin story, but this isn't entertainment, folks. These programs are allegedly real. They don't just want soldiers, they want soul-integrated operatives. And some are trained to become intuitive empaths, some are trained to become psychic specialists capable of detecting deceit, perceiving danger before it happens, and even interfacing with off-world intelligence. And according to some secret space program experiencers, these empaths often work in triads, with extraterrestrials acting as mediators or emotional translators. I mean, just think about that. Humans as emotional diplomats between species. It really does sound crazy, but here's where it gets even weirder. And we're talking about alien contact protocols. So there are reportedly over 70 alien species known to Earth's secret factions. I haven't seen one of them yet in person, I'm waiting for that, but some are neutral, others are not so much. They're on the side of good, on the side of evil. But here's a brief primer on the usual suspects. First up, you have the Draco reptilians. These are towering winged beings with militaristic hierarchies, often described as cold, manipulative, and psychically oppressive. Some whistleblowers say they view humanity as livestock, a biological resource to be harvested, controlled, and occasionally bred. And then we have the infamous Greys. Small, frail, telepathic, often involved in genetic programs. Some researchers, including the late Bud Hopkins, suggested that they're more like biological drones, extension of a larger hive-like intelligence. And then we have the Nordics. Tall, humanoid, pale, and strikingly attractive. They wear militarized uniforms and reportedly act as liaisons in human-alien meetings. And while some see them as benevolent, others warn they're coldly utilitarian, committed to cosmic law more than compassion. And finally, we have the blue avians. What would life be without these blue avians? Perhaps the most enigmatic of all the groups, described as tall bird-headed beings who communicate only through high-vibration intermediaries. Their role seems to be more spiritual than tactical, like guardians of galactic balance. But here's the twist. Not all ETs are physical in the way we understand. Some are interdimensional. They exist in higher vibratory realms, and they phase down to interact with our reality. In other words, they don't travel in physical craft. They project themselves into our awareness, and that is a big discrepancy that I think a lot of people have trouble with. So how does one interact with a being made of thought? You need a human with a mind tuned like a radio dial. And that's where our psychic operatives come in. They're trained, traumatized, and calibrated to pick up transmissions from the stars. What is the interface? Well, here's a scenario reported by multiple sources, including Randy Kramer and Niera Isley. A human recruit is taken, often under sedation, to a secret underground base. There, they're brought into a sterile room, and opposite them, seated calmly, is an extraterrestrial being. But instead of speaking, the being just waits. The human hears something, not in their ears, but in their mind's ear, a thought that isn't even theirs. The first test is whether they freak out. If not, the communication begins. I know, I'd be freaking out. Some say these sessions feel like dreams within dreams. Others describe very profound downloads of information on science, history, and even cosmic warnings about humanity's spiritual trajectory. And I know that there are a lot of warnings out there, and well, that's for another video. And then after that, it's basically over. They're sedated again, their memories are wiped, they're inserted back into normal life with a blank spot in their timeline. But sometimes those memories bleed through. So now we have trauma as a kind of tuning fork. And you might ask, why the torture? Why not just train these people kindly? Well, here's the disturbing part. Some people believe that trauma fragments the psyche, making it more susceptible to manipulation, but also more sensitive to subtle energies, like cracking a mirror to see multiple reflections. It's a dark concept echoed in Project Monarch and MK Ultra that trauma-induced disassociation can create multiple personality shells, each one programmed for different tasks. And this is true. I read a book a long time ago called The Minds of Billy Milligan, fascinating book about a man who was split into over 30 different personalities. Now, what if the same mechanism is used to produce interdimensional operatives? One alter could be for normal life, another could be for combat, another for contact. They're all triggered by sound, code phrases, or even visual stimuli. It's the perfect spy. And it's the perfect prisoner because they don't even remember they're in the game. That's how far it goes. So is this speculation or is it a smokescreen? At this point, your rational mind should be screaming, this is completely sci-fi. Where is the proof for all this? That's good. That means that you're still thinking. This information is largely testimonial. It's not peer-reviewed. It doesn't come with HD footage or pristine lab reports, except for some of the AI video that I'm creating to bring this to life. But let me ask you this. Why are so many experiencers reporting the same symbols, the same room layouts, the same alien species, even though they've never met? Why did researchers like Dr. John Mack, Harvard professor and Pulitzer Prize winner, risk his career to study these stories and conclude that something real was happening? Why would he do that? Why do the government's own declassified documents hint at psychic research, remote viewing programs, and consciousness manipulation? Just look at the Gateway Project, look at Robert Monroe, look at Tom Campbell. Maybe it's all a smokescreen. Or maybe the truth is so surreal it has to be presented as fiction just to be digestible. You know, my friends, consciousness is truly the final battlefield. In the end, what's really at stake here isn't just secrecy, it's sovereignty. And if humans aren't being recruited for psychic warfare, if children are being primed to serve in cosmic conflicts, then this isn't just about high tech. It's about soul level influence. And books like The Law of One, Tom Campbell's My Big Toe, and Liz Cross's Mind Probes all point to a similar theme, that reality is not physical, it's informational. Consciousness is the core. And if that's true, then who truly controls consciousness controls reality. That's why intuitive empaths are so valuable. They're not just psychics, they're quantum diplomats of sorts. They're energy filters. They may even be the keys to navigating future timelines. And maybe, just maybe, that's why the secret space program exists in the first place, to shape not just our skies, but our souls. So here are some final questions. Could the abduction phenomenon be more human than alien? Have you ever thought about that? Are children being selected not for their weaknesses, but for their potential? And is the ultimate war not being fought with lasers and craft, but with emotions, thoughts, and belief instead? We've wandered far from the launch pad in this episode, but next time, we will go deeper still. In part 3, we'll explore the mind-bending claims of time travel, age regression, and the 20 and back programs. This is a world where people serve decades off-planet and return home as if nothing ever happened. Until then, stay awake, stay skeptical, and stay curious, because in a universe of infinite possibilities, the most dangerous thing is certainty.